Riot MMO Demacia's 10 most epic raid bosses lore deep dive. Can you guys guess where this picture's from, by the way? I obviously edited it a little bit, but can you guess where it's from? Have you watched enough League of Legends to know where this image is from that I edited a little bit? Yeah, the main Demacia cinematic. That's the scene before Garen gets hit by the huge boulder launched at them. Yeah, that's from Warriors. Silas or some kind of mage launches a boulder at him and he goes flying. And I was like, he was already running. I was like, make him more scared. Add a dragon. Make it breathing fire. And then ended up making that. And I was like, oh. Top 10 potential Demacia raid bosses for the Riot MMO. An introduction to Demacia's dangers. Demacia, like I said, was very difficult. For some reason, Shadow Owls, I can get 20 raid bosses. Even Targon. It was like my list came through like that. Demacia, I had to think a little bit. Demacia is a realm defined by contrast. It is a land of shining white walls, unwavering justice, and martial pride. Yet beneath this veneer of perfection lies a growing paranoia, a deep-seated fear of magic and ancient horrors that stalk the hinterlands. This is where Demacia is located, right over here. For players in the upcoming Riot MMO, Demacia offers more than just political intrigue and the ongoing Mage-Seeker conflict. It is a region teeming with powerful entities, from zealous protectors and ancient dragons to primordial demons that defy comprehension. Here we speculate on the top 10 potential raid bosses that might await adventurers in the kingdom of Demacia. Also, I would even refer to it as the kingdom of Petricite. Demacia's history is intrinsically linked to the fear of magic. Founded by refugees fleeing the cataclysmic rune wars, the kingdom was built upon Petricite, a white stone that dampens magical energy. The material forms of the literal metaphorical walls of the nation. As described in the official Demacian region page, a strong, lawful kingdom with a prestigious military history. Demacia's people have always valued the ideals of justice, honor, and duty most highly, and are fiercely proud of their cultural heritage. But in spite of these lofty principles, the largely self-sufficient nation has grown more insular and isolationist in recent centuries. This isolationism, combined with internal strife following the death of King Jarvan III and the rise of the Mage Seekers, has created a climate of fear and uncertainty. It is in this climate that the dark things fester and where heroes will be needed to confront threats both within and without. Now Demacia is a kingdom in turmoil, and all the Petricite in the land will not protect Demacia from itself. Alright, Demacia raid bosses. Number 10, the Bloodcursed Harpies. Now, this could be a raid, or this could be a dungeon, but there's going to be something with the Bloodcursed Harpies in Demacia. The wilds of Demacia are home to more than just bandits and wolves. Strange, supernatural afflictions exist, turning mortals into monsters. The Bloodcursed Harpies represent a visceral and tragic horror lurking in the forgotten corners of the kingdom. The flavor text and Legends of Runeterra card Bloodcursed Harpies reveals a harrowing account found in a torn satchel. Kian, if you're reading this, I'm hopefully dead. I can't control what's happening to me. The blood under my nails won't wash off. I'm so itchy. I scratch and scratch, but nothing helps. It hurts. I just want it to stop. If I'm still alive, somehow, promise me you'll stop trying to find me. I would ask for your forgiveness, but I don't deserve it. Be good to Mother, okay? Something, I don't know what, something is turning mortals into Bloodcursed Harpies within Demacia. And Bloodcursed Harpies doesn't look like a good thing to turn into because they're like winged. You could fly. I suppose you could fly. That's pretty good. But they seem like they kind of lose control. And so we're going to have to deal with this threat one way or another. The Bloodcursed Harpy threat in Demacia, I think it has something to do with like a magician, like some kind of mage is turning mortals into Bloodcursed Harpies. A mage that's like upset with Demacia and the way that their like politics are imprisoning mages and force them to drink Petricite, right? There's bound to be a couple mages that are pretty upset with Demacia. But I definitely think that we're going to have to deal with this because that's not okay. Yeah. It doesn't even look like a person anymore. If you don't read the flavor text, there's no way you'd think a Bloodcursed Harpy is a person. You would just think that it's a harpy, a regular harpy that we've seen in fantastical worlds all over the place. But people are being turned into these, at least judging by the Runeterra card lore. So raid encounter analysis. This encounter would take place in a dark, forested area or a desolate cliffside nest. The fight would be against a swarm of harpies led by a central matriarch. The key mechanic would be the blood curse itself. The harpies' attacks would apply a stacking debuff that causes damage over time, the itching. And if the stack gets too high, the player temporarily loses control of their character, attacking allies, as hinted by the "I can't control what's happening to me." The raid would need specialized cleansing mechanics or designated areas to remove the curse before it overwhelms them. It would be a frantic fight, emphasizing debuff management and crowd control. I thought that, when I read the card, I thought more about the raid fight than I did the actual, like, could it be a raid boss? I think Bloodcursed Harpies will be maybe a dungeon, or if you want to turn it into a raid, you have to flesh out that character more. Whoever the mage is, that's turning mortals into Bloodcursed Harpies. But the lore is cool. I think that it's a good, like, riff on harpies, like standard harpies in the forest, whatever. These ones are like, there's a little bit more oomph to them. I think it's cool lore, and I would like to see it expanded out in a raid or a dungeon or something. I want to understand what's causing this. Next up, the Arcane Fist. There's no images of the Arcane Fist, I'll say that. We only know of them in the lore, but there's no actual images of them. Long before the current Mage Rebellion, Demacia faced external magic threats. While the kingdom's petricite walls offered protection at home, their armies abroad were vulnerable until the creation of Galio the Colossus. One of the most significant threats they faced were the war mages, known as the Arcane Fist. That's why Galio was created. Galio is literally just a petricite that they wanted to be able to move around. Why they carved it in the form of Galio is that they wanted it to be intimidating. And they would basically wheel Galio around to battle to protect them from magic. That's literally what Galio is, like a giant stone. You could think of it as a block, and they just wheeled it off to the next war-torn area, wherever they had to go fight. And so that's why Galio appeared in all these battles. The thing is with Galio is that he absorbs magic, right? We learned that in the last video that we talked about Friday. Petricite absorbs magic. It doesn't like take away, it doesn't make it go away completely. It just absorbs it. Magic is not destroyed, it's transferred. And that's why Galio eventually wakes up. If there's enough magic in a battle, enough magic mages shooting at the Demacians, Galio will literally awaken and defend Demacia, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they wheel this guy around and they just have him absorb all the magic. That's bad. That's a problem for them to deal with. So in Galio's biography, we learn of their devastating power during a battle in the Green Fang Mountains. Demacia had been mired in battle with enemy forces in the Green Fang Mountains. A skilled order of war mages known as the Arcane Fist bombarded the Demacians with crackling bolts of raw mystical power for 13 days. And I just put the skin here. This is Brand Apocalypse skin, but you get an idea of like the Arcane Fists are kind of like a group of fire mages. It was the accumulation of this magic that first stirred the Colossus to life, leading to the destruction of the Arcane Fist. But what if remnants of the order survived, nursing their wounds and plotting their return? That's literally in the story. So the Arcane Fists are battling. They wheeled Galio out there. They didn't even know he could wake up at this time. But Galio is just absorbing all these Arcane Fist damage, these fire bolts over and over and over again. And eventually Galio wakes up and pretty much just decimates the Arcane Fist. That's how Demacia wins that fight. They were going to lose. But yeah, Galio awakens. That's where it is, the Green Fang Mountains. So the raid encounter against the Arcane Fist would likely take place within the Green Fang Mountains, perhaps near the site of their original defeat. This would be a council-style fight against several elite war mages, focusing heavily on magical damage mitigation and positioning. The core mechanic would involve the war mages attempting to channel raw mystical power, and positioning players would need to interrupt their channels or use environmental petricite deposits to create safe zones. The fight might also feature Galio in a dormant state. If the mages channel too much power, Galio might awaken, either as an aid to the players or as an uncontrolled environmental hazard, smashing everything in sight. This is just like something I was thinking, like maybe like, you know, he's like unable to, like he's absorbed so much magic that he can't control himself. Something that I think about with Galio, but he's most likely would be on the player's side here if you're fighting the Arcane Fist and defending Demacia. I think that the mages channeling too much power, I was really trying to think of this because I wanted it to be like Galio is there and the mages are channeling, but maybe like you at this point understand Petricite and your own mages are trying to empower Galio. That could be cool too. Like imagine DPS having a mechanic other than don't stand in the fire, which I understand is difficult. Like you don't want to give DPS too many mechanics. They really struggle with that, especially when they're on the charts. But giving a DPS a mechanic where they have to damage something other than the boss, one, it usually results in raid wipes. But two, I think DPS could use a little bit more mechanics in games. There was one fight in World of Warcraft where like a DPS had to go and run this gauntlet kind of thing. That was pretty cool. That was back in World of Warcraft. It was like with Zandalar and stuff. And it was like a cave with this huge freaking like leech bug. It was a good fight. But yeah, I like when DPS have mechanics. So I think like maybe you're trying to wake up Galio. So you're in the fight, you're fighting the Arcane Fist, and your mages, anyone with like a magical ability, is trying to empower the like Galio to get him to wake up. A way that you make it where the whole raid isn't just stacked with magic users is that the Arcane Fist themselves take more damage from physical attacks. That way rogues and warriors can still get invited. Next up, the Stalking Broodmother and Protective Broodfather. Dragons, while rare, are a significant threat in Demacian Highlands. A mated pair presents a unique challenge requiring careful strategy to avoid overwhelming force. This is the Stalking Broodmother, and this is the Protective Broodfather. I love how the Protective Broodfather is literally just a zoom out of the Stalking Broodmother, and you could see, if you look right behind the Stalking Broodmother, that's the cubs right there. So, who's good here? That's debatable. But think of the loot, guys. That's what you need to keep in mind. Think of all the loot. I wouldn't get loot from the children, right? That's kind of messed up. But the parents could have some good boots. The research of Aidan Main, noted in Legend of Runeterra, gives insight into their behavior regarding the Stalking Broodmother. Careful, soldiers. If we tread carefully and don't disturb the nest, we can keep the mother dragon on the defensive. If we rile her up any further, well, you want to be ready to run. That's Aidan Main, Egghead researcher. And concerning the Protective Broodfather, he says, luckily my research suggests that broodfathers spend most of their time hunting a good distance from their young. It goes without saying that if the male should return, we would all be dragon fruit. And it looks like the male did return, and they have no idea. This art, you can't even see. Like, this person's like literally stalking behind the tree. And then you come here. They have no idea that this guy's even here. Must be pretty stealthy. Raid encounter analysis. This is a classic nesting ground encounter with a twist. The raid initially engages the Stalking Broodmother. The central mechanic is a rile meter. So actions such as damaging nearby eggs, using excessive AoE abilities, or allowing the Broodmother's health to drop too quickly will increase the meter. If the rile meter reaches maximum, or if the fight goes on too long, the Protective Broodfather returns from his hunt. This triggers a devastating hard enrage phase. The ideal strategy would be to defeat the Broodmother with precision and control before the Broodfather arrives. If both are active, the raid faces immense pressure, requiring perfect tank swaps and cooldown management to survive this onslaught. And that could be like an achievement, you know? Like defeat the Broodmother and the Broodfather would be an achievement if you're able to accomplish that. But the goal is really to like defeat the Broodmother before the Broodfather returns and without triggering his return and the rile effect. In League, they do a good job of making fun abilities even for tanks, heals, and less popular traditional MMO classes. I do feel like League of Legends bodes well for the MMO. There's a lot of even like the new fight with the Doombots, which I'm gonna play again today. The Doombots really show like Riot's ability to kind of have like those visuals, like a lot of abilities going off, but still be visually clear, which I think was one of the most dangerous things that you can do in an MMO. We talked about that with what's it called? I think Final Fantasy is a great game, guys. I really do, but man, it's really hard to see what the hell's going on sometimes. I played Final Fantasy a little bit. Yeah, I feel like this is too much. We want to avoid this. Like I mean, this is too much. It gets way worse than this too. Like when they really start stacking on the boss. Yeah, I mean, I can't see what's... My whole screen went white. And this actually looks like a cool raid fight. I'll say that. Like the fight actually looks cool, but I can't tell what's going on here. What am I doing? What's my ability? What am I doing? Like, where's my, if I'm shooting a fireball at a mate, at something, I need to be able to see it. And I understand the ability needs to be cool and impactful and big. But at the same time, it can't take away from everyone else's cool impact. It has to be at least small enough that everyone's abilities are visual. This just looks like everyone is freaking throwing grenades at her the whole time. You can't even see his character. Like, this ability is really cool, right? Look at this one. The red circle with the beam coming down. Awesome ability. Awesome ability. But it's just, look what it does when you have a big group. And this isn't even a big group. I would want to see like 30-man raids. So, you know, don't do that. I don't think it's worth it. So I think League of Legends with the Doom bots, which I've been playing a lot of, really does show like how Riot can handle kind of making your abilities visually clear in a group setting where everyone's attacking the same mob. Because League of Legends abilities are very visually clear. It's a big point in League of Legends that, you know, you have to see it anyways. Like, especially if you're hitting mobs trying to get last hits, you really want to see and make like, did I get the last hit? You know, watch it travel. So they do a good job with it. 2xk, another example. There's some abilities there and it's pretty clear. Yeah, Wild Rift is clear as well. But Wild Rift is at basically League of Legends on mobile. It's an important thing. Next up, surprisingly guys, number 7 is the Mage Seeker Order and Lord Eldred. I put it number 7 here. The Mage Seekers are the embodiment of Demacia's institutionalized fear of magic. Founded to protect the kingdom from the arcane chaos of the Rune Wars, they have become an oppressive force, rooting out magic wherever it hides. The Mage Seeker's handbook, quoted in Legends of Runeterra card Mage Seeker Insider, states their purpose. This guy is literally a mage, by the way, that's like working with the Mage Seekers, which is not uncommon. Mages do work with the Mage Seekers. Picture like someone that's just been waterboarded and like tortured, in most cases at least. Silas originally worked for the mages, for the Mage Seekers, before he was imprisoned. So it's like considered, you know, oh wow, you know, you're actually helping Demacia, and so it's a good thing. Long ago, the wild magics of the Rune Wars brought all Runeterra to its knees. Thus, our order was created to protect our kingdom by ridding it of magic, whether abroad or within. Leading this order, or at least a significant faction of it, is Lord Eldred, a man of caution and authority. This is him. Lord Eldred is right here. That's Lux, and that's their aunt. Lux's aunt Tiana. In Legends of Runeterra, his flavor text reveals his nature. I couldn't help but overhear your fervent whisperings, dear wife. I advise you to exercise more caution when discussing family matters in so public a place. You can never be certain who might be listening. And I've always taken this impression of in life, like if someone is super afraid of people, let's say you're super afraid of people just randomly pushing you. That means that you're just randomly push someone. You know what I mean? So if you're afraid of like someone overhearing a conversation, that means you probably listen in to other people's conversations a lot because it's top of mind for you, because you do it. You know what I mean? That's how I always think. And then like this seat behind them, we can see it playing out in the Tiana Crown Guard Legends of Runeterra card. You can see that art behind Tiana. Same art here. And this is like the same positioning. This is Lux talking to her Aunt Tiana, and it says, our house has bled for this realm. You'll not throw away this family's honor for a few tricks of light. That's because Lux is a mage. Lux is actually a light mage. So she's telling her, you know, you're not doing this. You're not going to show your magic. Just like, don't tell anyone you're a mage and be a good girl. So that's what their discussion is. And then it seems like Lord Eldred knows that she's a mage and is telling her to like go discuss it in somewhere more private. I don't know. I understand what you're saying. Like it's black and white. Like the Mage Seekers are generally bad. But that's because they were corrupted from the beginning. Is it black and white? I'm starting to think now, the more I think about it, it kind of is. Because while the Mage Seekers were corrupted, they were corrupted from the beginning. They're literally called the Mage Seekers. I don't think the order was even formed post like corruption, post like the Black Rose infiltrating. And the Mage Seekers aren't like, I mean, they're out to protect Demacia. Demacians truly believe that if you do magic, you will incite another rune war. They've been corrupted that far, like they're within their own mind. Like in the Lux comic, you see Garen talking about it. That you like Lux is talking about, she's like, is it worth it? And he's like, you know, you don't want another rune war. Dang, Alexander, you know, you're actually making me think about it. It might be a little bit more black and white. So this is in the Lux comic. Garen and Lux are riding in the street. This mage shows up and they're like after her. She's just running scared. Garen gets pissed, chases her down. I said, halt, mage. Freaking smashes her to the ground. Sends her to jail. And he said, magic is usually inherited. Best to make sure no one else is afflicted. They'll like imprison her whole family. I'm sorry you had to see that, Miss Lexana. And Garen's like, no need to apologize for making the kingdom safer. Safer? Are we safer? He said, what are you getting at? Of course we are. They're investigating that woman's family. They'll be released if they aren't afflicted with magic. And if they are, what, they send them to the hinterlands? It's for the best. They won't hurt anyone there. They're not hurting anyone here, unless someone tries to chase them down in the street. Do you ever think maybe our laws make things worse? Hold your tongue. Without those laws, this great civilization would fall. Do you want to risk another rune wars right there? Without our laws, the great civilization would fall. Do you want to risk another rune wars? Even magic done by this person right here, just a random mage running around in the street, they believe that it will cause another rune wars, when in reality, mages help build Demacia itself. That's how corrupted they are. That's how far they've been corrupted by the Black Rose. Even in the Mage Seeker game, the mages literally have a kumbaya commune in the woods. Both sides should be equally justified in their beliefs and struggles rather than Mage Seekers being oppressors. I think they were. The problem is that the Mage Seekers, like I said, this is like a corrupted movement. From the beginning, it was corrupted. It never started out good. Maybe there was a group that protected Demacia prior to the Mage Seekers, but when they became Mage Seekers, like Seekers of Mages, they were already infiltrated by the Black Rose and corrupted at that point. Honestly, fair, magic doesn't have the best safety record. Yeah, I mean, but it did help build Demacia. Is magic more dangerous than some random person just walking in the street? Absolutely. Someone that can just shoot a fireball out of their hand at any time. It's like they're constantly carrying a rocket launcher. So they're more dangerous than a regular person. But, what are you going to do? They're citizens. It should only be a bad mage. If someone's bad, then hey, you got to imprison them. It shouldn't be corruption. It should be justified. Mages are dangerous. Almost every catastrophe we know of is mage inflicted. The thing about the rune wars is it's not due to the mages. It's due to the rune wars. And it might not even have been a mage wielding it. A regular person could wield a world rune and it would be just as destructive. Because the world runes are magic on a nuclear level. They destroyed whole civilizations. I'm pretty sure this whole spot right here, see this huge indent? Or even this little spot, maybe right here, off this where it's kind of separated little two pieces, is where Rise was looking out and sees that whole area destroyed in the Rise cinematic for the rune, where he talks about the rune wars. This could have been done by a mage or a non-mage. It's about the power of the world rune that was dangerous.
Naive. So I vowed. Never again.
And then you could see where that's at here. Where is it? Call to power. Memories of destruction. See, it's right here off the coast. So I think it's maybe this little spot here or something. The main thing I'm getting at is yeah, magic is, someone who can wield magic is definitely more dangerous than someone who does not wield magic. Just like someone with a sword is more dangerous than someone without a sword. There's more potential for danger. But you can't just say that all mages are dangerous like the Mage Seekers do. No matter what, it's gonna be wrong. So I agree with you that it's more black and white than that with the Mage Seekers because they're just a corrupted organization. Honestly, fair, magic doesn't have the best state yet, but it's more the world runes. That could have been a mortal that wielded that world rune. Yeah, it's hard to justify that all mages are bad. I don't know if you can ever justify that. Mages help build Demacia. Rise is a mage. There's a lot of really good mages out there, and there's a lot of good people and there's a lot of bad people, even in Runeterra. Okay, raid encounter allowances for the Mage Seekers, and led by Lord Eldred. This, by the way, I think one thing about Lord Eldred, I think he literally married Tiana just to gain power. I don't think it's a marriage out of love or anything. I think he married into status. I really think Lord Eldred was just a bad guy from birth, man. There's no good in him. It's not like he loves Aunt Tiana or whatever. This raid would involve infiltrating a major Mage Seeker stronghold or prison. Players would face various specialized units leading up to the final boss. Mage Seeker Inquisitor might attempt to suppress abilities. Mage Seeker Investigators could apply debilitating debuffs. The Mage Seeker Persuaders could rally nearby troops. And final confrontation with Lord Eldred would be a battle against anti-magic supremacy. Eldred would utilize petrocite weaponry and artifacts. The arena would likely feature zones of null magic, silencing casters and draining resources. Caster classes would find this fight particularly challenging, requiring precise positioning and capitalizing on brief windows when the anti-magic fields are deactivated. And the anti-magic, maybe he takes like additional damage from magic, and the anti-magic fields are more like you have to be like a melee. You know, I like to have like where you can use where like ranged and melee are both important. I feel like that's a problem. Like in World of Warcraft, some fights are just like whoever does the most DPS. But if you make it where like melee and ranged both have value, then you kind of have to mix it up. I think that's important. So number 6, Kadregrin the Infernal. While Demacia struggles with internal issues, external threats are growing bolder. A recent spate of dragon attacks points to a singular powerful entity rallying others to its cause. Kadregrin the Infernal. This is him on the right, the left is Shyvana. As noted in the Legend of Runeterra card for Kadregrin, when Demacia underwent a sudden spate of dragon attacks, Shyvana knew that Kadregrin the Infernal was to blame. Other dragons inspired by his bold nature and powerful flame drove the Demacians to fear. Kadregrin is not alone. He inspires lesser dragons such as the fiercely protective Screeching Dragons and the stoic Mountain Drakes, creating a significant aerial threat to the kingdom. You can see a Screeching Drake here, and there's a Mountain Drake. All creatures are fiercely protective of their young, but few are as well equipped to deal with this would-be threats as dragons. And I want to say this about the... I don't know, I kind of like them being their own fight, but they could also be like leading up to Kadregrin. You know, like you have to go through the Stalking Broodmother camp and the Protected Broodmother, like their area, in order to get there to like the Kadregrin fight. Maybe it's like in the woods. I don't know. It could be a part of like this raid, this dragon raid for Demacia. The Placid Mountain Drakes are slow to anger despite their appearance, and their stoicism around other mountain beasts make them natural protectors of vulnerable flocks. While this may look dangerous, it actually maybe is protecting the flock. That's what I was always thinking when I was reading that art. Raid encounter analysis. This would be a multi-boss wing focused entirely on the dragon threat. Players would first need to clear the lesser dragons serving Kadregrin. The final fight against Kadregrin the Infernal would be an epic confrontation against the Master of Flame. The encounter would require managing a massive AoE fire attacks, fiery breath cones, and tail swipes. Given her connection to the lore, Shyvana, the half-dragon protector of Jarvan IV, would likely play a crucial role as an NPC ally. As she struggles with her identity, I am of two worlds, yet I belong to neither, she might aid the raid in her dragon form during critical phases. An ally who may help us learn of those foes ahead of the raid is Aiden Main, the Egghead researcher. And this is him, Aiden Main. He actually appears in the art up here as well. You can see him running from the Screeching Dragon. He just like researches dragon. He appears in some Targon dragon art as well. Location, recovered by researcher Aiden Main on expedition. He's talking about the egg. Notes, gestation period unknown. Incubation continued. Recent movement observed within the shell. Egg response to heat, light, hammer. Current studies, inconclusive. Notes of Aiden Main, Egghead researcher. So next one, number 5, for the Demacian raid bosses for the Riot MMO. We got Joraal, the Darkin Aegis. The Darkin are corrupted ascended god warriors of ancient Shurima, their minds broken by the horrors of the void, and their bodies trapped within their own weapons. One such entity is Joraal, who has found its way to Demacia, imprisoned within a shield. Joraal was once a mighty figure as detailed in the Legend of Runeterra card. A mighty ascended tactician known as the Aegis of Eternity, Joraal seemed impervious to attack, even for an immortal god warrior of Shurima. But the war against the void raged on, and as resilient as Joraal's body was, it was his mind that broke, and how it broke. And they're talking about the void war with Acacia. That's where the god warriors really lost it. And Joraal was probably front lines in this war against the void and Acacia. God warriors come from the Sun Disk, go and fight the void, become corrupted, lose their freaking minds, and have to be imprisoned within their weapons. That's the story. The shield is currently guarded by the House Fortis, but the Darkin within cries out, tempting those nearby, as seen in the flavor text for the Darkin Aegis. My son, listen now. That shield must never be touched. Long ago, it was gifted to our house on the condition that we keep it safe and leave it be. It is my responsibility. And when I pass, it will be yours. Do you hear me now? You must never climb to it again. You must never touch it. But Mama, the voice inside, it cries to me. It sounds so sad. All the more reason, my son. And that's Lady Fortis and talking to her son. That kid does eventually pick it up, which is pretty sad that Joraal is possessing a child, but yeah. Raid encounter analysis. This encounter begins with the shield is inevitably touched by Lady Fortis' son, allowing Joraal to manifest. The fight would emphasize his title, the Aegis of Eternity. Joraal would have phases of near invulnerability, reflecting incoming damage or utilizing unbreakable defenses. As the fight progresses, Joraal's broken mind would become a central mechanic. His trauma from the Void Wars would manifest as chaotic environmental effects, erratic attack patterns, or perhaps even summoning echoes of void entities. Players must weather his impenetrable defenses and survive his madness to finally subdue the tormented Darkin. Evelynn, Agony's Embrace. We're starting to get up high now. Now this is like the top 4 raid bosses. These are powerful beings that we'll definitely have to deal with in the Riot MMO. Demons thrive on mortal suffering, and none are more skilled at cultivating and harvesting pain than Evelynn. While she stalks all of Runeterra, the repressed emotions and hidden desires within Demacia's orderly society provide a particularly exquisite feast for her. That's the thing, like Evelynn feeds on agony, and it seems like a good way to extort agony is like through emotional agony, right? Like it's not just pain and suffering, but like emotional suffering. And it seems like Demacia maybe has a lot of that because its own people have turned against each other. Evelynn's champion page describes her methodology. Within the dark seams of Runeterra, the demon Evelynn searches for her next victim. She lures in prey with the voluptuous facade of a human female. But one person succumbs to her charms, Evelynn's true form is unleashed. She then subjugates her victims to unspeakable torment, gratifying herself with their pain. She is a predator who prefers her victims to feel everything, as noted by her color story, The Tallest Daisy. She preferred her daisies tall and healthy, for those are the most satisfying to cut down. Her Legends of Runeterra cards give us an idea of the raid encounters leading up to Evelynn. So you can see this is Evelynn level 2, and you can see a bunch of other demons around her. As Evelynn stalked Runeterra, she attracted the attentions of lesser demons, each hoping to destroy the Widowmaker and feast on her power. That's important. That means that demons can literally steal the power from other demons and like feast on it to become stronger. She butchered most, of course, but a few talented individuals caught her eye. Today they live on, bound to their mistress, and when the mood strikes, Evelynn lets them out to play. The Evelynn raid could include the demons bound to her before we confront Evelynn herself. This is domination. Sometimes all the powerful want is to feel powerless. This is like these demons that Evelynn controls. These are the different demons. So there's domination, solitude. On my walk home from the entrousal, I saw again that poor vagabond sobbing in a small alleyway. That so many veer around her so pointedly breaks my heart as much as her own palpable dismay. So tomorrow, should we cross paths again, I will endeavor to help her in any way I can. These are notes from the Lady of Sempescu's diary. So this lady on the left in the image, the one who's comforting this poor girl who's sitting here crying and covered. And you can see a little bit of purple on her hand. And there's a Joraal there as well. Steam. Evelynn's first encounter with Steam was a violent, thrilling affair. Evelynn remembered how he smiled with unbridled pleasure as she flayed him, and how he returned the suffering just as eagerly when it was his turn. After finally overpowering Steam, Evelynn chose then not to destroy the lesser demon, but to bind him to her forever. Perhaps she thought they could share their mutual love for butchery with the world. This is Steam. Soltur. Soltur has no card text, representing a more primal and mysterious form of agony. And then Vora. Beware those who smile on these haunted isles. Perhaps they are too newly arrived to understand the brutality of this place. Perhaps they are crazed. Perhaps they are something else entirely. But beware, notes from Jens Toman. Unlike other demons who lure their victims in with false pretenses, Vora is too single-minded in her craving, too overwhelmed by desire. Rather than a predator who stalks her food, she is a wild beast who must feed. And this is Vora on the right. So you can see what happens to these people in the demons' artworks as well. Lady Sempescu, who is right here, this one who's trying to help this poor girl on her knees, crying and sobbing within Zon, ends up being the Breakneck's husk. You can see her right here, as well as the Yordle that was helping her. And the comment is like really sad. Look me in the eye. Tell me I hurt you. It's solitude. So these people in these artworks do not end up in a good place. It's pretty bad. There they all are. They become breakneck husks and just basically cannon fodder for Evelynn. Plenty of agony to go around in the League community. Playing a single game is enough to feed Evelynn for a while. Oh, jeez. Well, I think that they use solo queue as a fortune method for health. Jeez, guys. Jeez. Evelynn, the whole game is just designed to feed Evelynn, like Evelynn created League of Legends. Raid encounter analysis. A raid against Evelynn would be a psychological thriller. The encounter would likely begin in an opulent, deceptive setting, a noble's manor, or a secluded retreat. The fight would have two distinct phases. In the first phase, Evelynn uses her human facade, focusing on stealth, charm, and misdirection. She would attempt to isolate players, turning them against each other or charming them into inaction. Failing these mechanics would increase her gratification meter. This fight would definitely need to be, rated T for teen, just saying. Once her meter is full of her health reaches a certain threshold, she unleashes her true demonic form. This phase is a brutal assault, utilizing her lashes and shadow magic, where she summons her lesser demons to aid her, making the fight a desperate battle against overwhelming torment. So I would think like the raid would have you battle you'd battle Steam, Solitude, Domination, Sulter, Vora. You'd battle them, but you wouldn't kill them. They would go back to Evelynn inevitably. And then you get to the Evelynn fight, you'd have to battle Evelynn and then have to deal with like these mechanics again. So Domination would come in for a moment, Solitude would be coming for a moment, like they'd resummon them, you know? That's the raid encounter for Evelynn. Next up, Kayle and Morgana, a united test. The Winged Sisters are the central figures of Demacian mythology. Born to the aspect of justice, Kayle the righteous and Morgana the fallen embody the conflict between unwavering retribution and compassionate redemption. For years, they protected the fledgling nation of Demacia, but their differing ideologies eventually led to a catastrophic battle. The Canticle of the Winged Sisters, an epic poem lost in Hive Silvermere, describes this tragic divide. Kayle and Morgana, sisters no longer, enemies eternal. On wings of gold and jet, yet they fought. Their mother's blades clashed in fury, clouds of flame with fire and ruin. Their conflict climaxed in a battle that resulted in the death of their father, causing Kayle to abandon their mortal realm and Morgana to bind her wings to embrace humanity. While they are currently separated, legend speaks of their eventual return. If a threat great enough endangered Demacia, the sisters might be forced into an uneasy alliance to test the worthiness of the modern heroes. And we've seen Morgana test Silas also in Mage Seeker. So I think like a threat great enough to Demacia, like Evelynn and Fiddlesticks, may bring like the Winged Sisters back together to protect Demacia again, only from a demon threat. Oh man, Evelynn's so bad. I wouldn't mind her eating me, to be honest. I mean, that's the problem. That's how she gets you. Evelynn does use a lot of her particular assets, you know, to lure in her prey. That's her whole thing. So, just speaking about the lore, that is the case. Pull up Galio for a bit. This is a really good history of Demacia, like great history for Demacia, guys.
Long ago, magical forces of destruction rained chaos upon the land. Some survivors found a safe haven, a secret place where magic was dampened. A forest of stone trees that seemed to repel the worst evils of the Rune Wars.
This is Morgana talking, by the way.
Safe at last. It was here that these refugees founded Demacia. They harvested
Note the mage in the background.
And built cities that would keep everyone safe from the magical horrors outside their walls.
See Kayle and Morgana coming together to defend Demacia.
Here, magic was harnessed for good. Mages used their powers to make the city stronger. The Winged Protectors were venerated for using magic to shield the city. Their wings still decorate Demacia's walls.
Those are the
But
wing
over
protectors right there. It's
time,
your symbol.
History was rewritten. Those in power harnessed fear, blaming the rune wars on magic itself.
Fear is a powerful tool. I love this cinematic.
Thus, the Mage Seekers were formed.
That's where the black and white comes that Alexander was
Zealous
talking
in their
about.
hatred, they banned all magic and brought terror to the mages. Within its own walls, Demacia was under siege. Mages hid to avoid persecution.
Burning the text.
Soon, Demacians believed that their nation was founded not as a safe haven from evil, but as a safe haven from magic. But magic cannot be hidden for long. It persevered in shadow and secrets.
This is where we're at today with
And people
Demacia.
need magic, whether they admit it or not. I would know. I hear their prayers every night.
Yeah. That's where we are with Demacia. And you can see like Kayle and Morgana used to be protectors of Demacia is what I really wanted to show you. And so I really believe that, you know, given the right threat, such as maybe an Evelynn, something really big, or even Joraal, that maybe Kayle and Morgana will come back together again to defend Demacia. And maybe they will have like a fight against both of them as kind of like a trial, like a test kind of thing to make sure you're strong enough to defend Demacia. Kayle and Morgana have an interesting story. That's how I do.
Long ago, two winged protectors kept peace in this land. Justice and forgiveness, together in harmony. But when war raged within their home, they could no longer act as one. Their battle split the heavens, searing the land with flame and shadow. Yet when dawn broke, neither sister remained. Some hope for their return, to put an end to all mortal conflict. Others pray that day will never come.
I think that's really cool how like Morgana's really forgotten in Demacia. Like Morgana, her story, they completely removed her from the history. That's why Demacia is all about justice and there's no forgiveness and there's only punishment, because that's that one half of justice. That's from Kayle's voice line, I think, there. That Kayle's talking, that's why she calls herself Justice and Morgana Forgiveness. They're both justice. They're both were originally wielding the twin halves of their mother's sword, and their mother is the aspect of justice. They each got a half of justice. Kayle punishment, Morgana forgiveness, and together they make justice. You can't have justice without punishment, and you can't have justice without forgiveness. You need both. Some things need to be forgiven, and other things can never be forgiven. And that's how you make justice. And so they need to like work together is the thing. Each one is wrong. Morgana forgives too much, and Kayle forgives nothing.
Kayle, blinded by the shadows your light casts.
Here to make excuses for their darkness, sister?
Kayle, blinded by the light, you're blinded by the light you cast. Like she's saying that Kayle's blinded, she doesn't see the people on the ground for what they really are. And Kayle says, Morgana, you just make excuses for their darkness. Because that's what, I mean, Morgana forgives everything, Kayle forgives nothing. Together, they'll be able to come up with justice, like what true justice is for every individual. That's how it works. Raid encounter analysis. This would be a dynamic dual boss encounter representing the tension between retribution and redemption. The goal might not be to kill the sisters, obviously, but to survive their judgment. The fight would require the raid to balance their actions carefully. Kayle would demand swift execution of threats and adherence to strict rules, punishing failure with divine fire, as she demonstrates in the story In the Fires of Justice. This is her talking to the king. I really like the In the Fire of Justice story. I did a reading of it. If you guys want, it's on my YouTube channel. It's literally called In the Fires of Justice short story. And it's just like a little script from it that I liked. Simultaneously, Morgana would test the raid's compassion, perhaps requiring them to cleanse debuffs or protect penitent spirits. Ignoring her test would result in agonizing dark bindings, such as her soul shackles. And then the raid would satisfy both aspects of justice simultaneously. If they lean too heavily toward one sister ideology, the other will unleash overwhelming power. So it's really a balancing act, just like how they should be balancing justice. And then number 2, Mihira, the aspect of justice. Mihira is actually not dead. A lot of people think she's dead because her sword falls and splits, and that's how Morgana and Kayle get their power. But she does appear in a future alternate reality timeline that could happen, could not, with Zolani. So she's not dead. She is actually alive. She's just in Targon. Before Kayle and Morgana, there was Mihira. We don't actually know why her sword fell though yet, or why like her sword split and went to Kayle and Morgana. Maybe it was like a gift from her. She just needed a break, I guess. Before Kayle and Morgana, there was Mihira. During the height of the Rune Wars, Mihira and her husband Kilam climbed Mount Targon seeking the power to save their people. Mihira was chosen as the vessel of the aspect of justice. At the mountain's summit, she was chosen as divine vessel for the aspect of justice, wielding a sword that blazed with a fire brighter than the sun. Mihira became a fearsome warrior, far greater than any mortal, but her divinity eventually overshadowed her humanity. While her daughters inherited her power, Mihira herself remains the pinnacle of the aspect's might. In Legends of Runeterra, Mihira aspect ascendant states, "It was in the names of my daughters that I embraced divinity. It was for my family that I forsook my own humanity, so that by this flaming sword I could forge a new world of truth and justice." You can think about it, in the Rune Wars, there was probably a lot of injustice. Some revere the aspect as gods, others see them as messengers from the realm beyond. Still others fear them, and perhaps rightly so. That's from Lord Keeper Skynen. So raid and counter analysis for Mihira. As the embodiment of the aspect of justice, Mihira would be one of the most powerful celestial encounters in the game. The fight would likely take place in the celestial realm or atop a sacred peak linked to Targon. Mihira would wield the original unbroken sword of justice. The encounter would be a spectacle of blinding light and celestial fire, and the primary mechanic would be the scales of justice. Mihira would constantly judge the raid's actions. Players who deal excessive damage, fail mechanics, or even those with a history of unjust actions in the game's narrative might accrue guilt. If the scales tip too far, Mihira unleashes a raid-wiping wave of divine fire. It is a fight against the literal god, demanding perfection and righteousness. It's a really good fight for weeding out like bad players, you know? You'll know if people need to be kicked from raid, or kicked from the guild, based on this fight. Last one, guys, and then we'll go to the Riot MMO roles. Fiddlesticks, the Ancient Fear, number 1 on our list for raid bosses for Demacia. If Fiddlesticks is going to be a raid boss, he's going to be in Demacia. Something has awoken in the Demacian hinterlands. It is not a mage, nor a dragon, nor a celestial aspect. It is something far older, far worse. It is Fiddlesticks, the Ancient Fear, a primordial demon drawn to the rising climate of paranoia in Demacia. Think about it, Fiddlesticks feeds on fear. Imagine you're a mage in Demacia, hiding out, hoping that you don't get caught, right? Hoping that no one catches you and turns you in to like the mage seekers. Imagine the fear you would feel for that. I think that that's where Fiddlesticks comes into play, and that's why Fiddlesticks really thrives in Demacia. Fiddlesticks' biography, an entity so utterly alien that it defies almost all contemporary knowledge of magic, so impossibly ancient that it has always been. The terror of all living things given life in the first terrible scream of creation. A demon before demons were known. That's Fiddlesticks. He's like one of the 10 demon kings, one of the primordial demons of all demons. Like he is a demon king in a lot of ways. It really is. Like when you say the 10 demon kings, he is a king. He is fear. Evelynn feeds on agony, okay? Not as broad. That's how demons work. The higher you go on the demonic chart, the more broad what they consume is. So, for example, Nocturne feeds on like nightmares. So Nocturne is under the fear tree, and Nocturne feeds on nightmares, so maybe the fear of nightmares that you feel within a nightmare. Compared to Fiddlesticks, Fiddlesticks will feed on the fear of nightmares, the fear of secrets, the fear of freaking animals, the fear of bugs, whatever. Fiddlesticks feeds on it all, which is why he's so powerful. It stalks the edges of society, mimicking the voices of the dead, turning entire villages mad before slaughtering them. I want to say this, they talk about Fosbarrow here in this cinematic. Fosbarrow was actually Fiddlesticks, but the Mage Seekers blame it on mages to continue pushing fear within Demacia, the fear of mages. In reality, it was actually Fiddlesticks that did it.
A full tankard in a warm tavern was the plan. Not extra watch.
Whole countryside's on edge after Fossbarrow.
Yeah. Filthy mages. They show up here. They show up here, and I'll come. Tedric? Hey, Tedric!
Who was responsible for Frostbarrow does show up, but it's not mages.
Tedric!
Jeez. Jeez. Fiddlesticks. So great. The color story voices details the disappearance of the villages of Goldweald, where survivors saw a face, maybe, all lopsided, twisted sackcloth and rusted teeth. And behind it, something huge. Splayed out on thin legs, but alive with hundreds of black birds rattling inside an old cage. And eyes. So many eyes. I thought Fossbarrow was Nocturne. Do they both have lore there? Just looked it up. They both do. Yeah, they both do. So Fossbarrow, there's also Nocturne, and that's Lux deals with that. But it is demons. And the freaking Mage Seekers blame it on mages. Just blame everything on mages. Someone burns their hand, could have been a mage. Someone uses the bathroom a little bit too much. Well, you know what? Your bowel movements, that could be a mage. Could be a mage cursing you. Someone doesn't sleep good at night. Mage. That's Demacia, way too much. What up, Smosis? Well, not Demacia specifically, the Mage Seekers. They blame everything on mages. Yeah, Fossbarrow Nocturne, and it's like, takes over a kid in Fossbarrow. Don't live in Fossbarrow, guys. I don't think it's on the map, is it? Is Fossbarrow on the map, guys? Does anyone know? I've never seen it. Avoid it, though. Definitely avoid that place. Oh, Fossbarrow right there. Yep, there's Fossbarrow. Stay away from that place. Fiddlesticks is so creepy, man. He's terrifying. It's on the map. Yeah, you're right. I was looking for it. Good catch, Turi. I was like, I don't know if it was or not. I've never seen it before, but now we know. Fossbarrow's right there. Is that where... I think that's where Lux and Garen are from. Named after the fate of Fozy and Crownguard, this town was once haunted by a nightmarish demon. Yeah, it was haunted by Nocturne as well. So don't live there. Raid encounter analysis. Fiddlesticks is the ultimate horror raid boss of Runeterra. The encounter would take place in a corrupted, nightmarish version of the Demacian hinterlands. Perhaps the ruins of Goldweald. Fear and paranoia are the central mechanics. Fiddlesticks would rarely be directly targetable. Instead, it would create scarecrow effigies, clones, to confuse the raid. It would use auditory hallucinations, mimicking the voices of raid members or NPCs to give false instructions. The most critical mechanic would be the terror debuff, a Virgile cast that Demacian demonologist notes in Legends of Runeterra. I now suspect that speaking of it, or simply thinking of it, is enough to draw it near. If a player's terror reaches maximum, they are instantly killed and consumed. As a survivor of Goldweald realized, once it tastes your fear, once it knows you, it never lets go. The fight would be a psychologically punishing experience, forcing players to constantly distinguish reality from illusion, managing their terror and surviving the relentless onslaught of crows and the demon's jagged scythe. It is a fight not just for survival, but for sanity. And I would hope that we wouldn't kill Fiddlesticks here, but just lose to him.